This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore. Well, apparently we need someone to keep ringing the bell about the improprieties and unethical behavior of Supreme Court justices, and I volunteer as tribute. This time, a Democratic-appointed, nominated, and confirmed Supreme Court Justice, Sonia Sotomayor. Look, I've seen some action on Twitter and different social media outlets of people making excuses for this, or even whataboutism this. Whataboutisming this. That this is, it's not a big deal. It doesn't rise to the level of Clarence Thomas. It doesn't rise to the level of what's going on with Neil Gorsuch. Samuel Alito. I'm sure we'll find something out about Neil Gorsuch. And I would push back on that. Of course, it doesn't rise to the level of hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of gratuities and trips. No, it does not. But when you have staff pressing for organizations that are hosting the justice to buy more books, this is unethical behavior. And if we're going to call out the other side and then ignore our side, we are no better than the hypocrites that we talk about constantly in the Republican Party. If it's not good for their guy, it can't be good for our guy. First, I'm going to reintroduce what I keep talking about, this letter from April 10th, 2023, where Dick Durbin, the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, wrote to John Roberts asking him to come in and testify about this very problem within the court. Remember this moment. 11 years ago, several members of the committee, including the current chair, sent you, John Roberts, the attached letter urging the court to adopt a resolution stating that the justices of the Supreme Court abide by the Judicial Conference's Code of Conduct for United States judges, a code that binds every other judge in the federal judiciary. You, John Roberts, responded that the court, quote, does not have a plan to adopt the Code of Conduct for United States judges through a formal resolution, and referenced your 2011 year-end report in which you said, quote, John Roberts said this, the court has no reason to adopt the Code of Conduct as its definitive source of ethical guidance. And I would say it is becoming more and more and more clear that that is insane, that that is wrong, that that is misguided, that that is a protection of the court from any outside prying eyes to see their unethical, brazen behavior, even in the case of liberal justices. This is from the AP. Supreme Court Justice Sotomayor's staff prodded colleges and libraries to buy her books. That is not the job of the staff of the Supreme Court, to personally enrich the justices from purchases of their privately written books that are outside of the scope of their job as Supreme Court Justice. For colleges and libraries seeking a bold-faced name for a guest lecturer, few come bigger than Sonia Sotomayor, the Supreme Court Justice who rose from poverty in the Bronx to the nation's highest court. She has benefited, too, from schools' purchases of hundreds, sometimes thousands of books she has written over the years. Sotomayor's staff has often prodded public institutions that have hosted the justice to buy her memoir or children's books, works that have earned her at least $3.7 million since she joined the court in 2009. Details of those events, largely out of public view, were obtained by the Associated Press through more than 100 open records requests to public institutions. The resulting tens of thousands of pages of documents offer a rare look at Sotomayor and her fellow justices beyond their official duties. In her case, the documents reveal repeated examples of taxpayer-funded, this is the problem, of taxpayer-funded court staff performing tasks for the justice's book ventures, which workers in other branches of government are barred from doing. But when it comes to promoting her literary career, Sotomayor is free to do what other government officials cannot because the Supreme Court does not have a formal code of conduct, leaving the 9 justices to largely write and enforce their own rules. Is this what we want from our officials, from people as high in our government as a Supreme Court justice? There's only 9 of them. And they are free from the gaze, the ethical constraints that the rest of us are. They are free from the constraints, the ethical constraints that others in the government are. They're writing their own rules. I say no. This is one of the most basic tenets of ethics law that protects taxpayer dollars from misuse, said Kedrick Payne, a former deputy chief counsel at the Office of Congressional Ethics and current general counsel for the Campaign Legal Center, a nonpartisan government watchdog group in Washington. The problem at the Supreme Court is there's no one there to say whether this is wrong. I think it is self-evident that it is wrong. It is self-evident that it is wrong. We don't need Supreme Court justices benefiting personally, financially, using taxpayer-funded staff to bolster the dollars in their bank accounts. Supreme Court staffers have been deeply involved in organizing speaking engagements intended to sell books. That is conduct prohibited for members of Congress and the executive branch who are barred under ethics rules for using government resources, including staff, for personal financial gain. Lower federal court judges are also instructed to not lend the prestige of their judicial office to advance their personal interests. But no such rules exist for the Supreme Court of the United States, thanks to John Roberts, largely. The documents obtained by the AP show that the justices' conduct spans their conservative-liberal split. Besides book sales, appearances by the justices were used in hopes of raising money at schools, which often invite major contributors to the events. Justices also lent the allure of their high office to partisan activity. In 2019, as Sotomayor traveled the country to promote her new children's book, Just Ask, library and community college officials in Portland, Oregon, jumped at the chance to host an event. They put in long hours and accommodated the shifting requests of Sotomayor's court staff. Then, as the public cost of hosting the event soared almost tenfold, a Sotomayor aide emailed with a different urgent concern. She said, and get this, if this does not outrage you, you are not paying attention. This is the last sentence of the last paragraph that I will read. I will put this article in the description below, at the bottom of the description, if you want to read the whole thing. She said the organizers, this is the staff member of Sotomayor, you and I pay their salary. They said this. She said the organizers did not buy enough copies of the justice's book, which attendees had to purchase or have on hand in order to meet Sotomayor after the talk. This is paying for access to a justice, whether it be for a conversation or a photo op. This is unethical. It is clearly unethical. We wouldn't want our Congress members to be behaving like this. We wouldn't want the staff of our Congress members behaving like this. And we wouldn't want members of the executive branch to behave like this. So why is it okay for a Supreme Court justice, whether they be liberal or whether they be conservative? The same standard must apply. So, to John Roberts, absolutely we do need a code of ethics. In direct contradiction to what you say here, the court has had no reason to adopt the code of conduct as its definitive source of ethical guidance. Clearly, you do. And the spouses of your justices earning $10 million a pop for their glad handing disgusting. Again, listen, if I am doing my job, I'm going to be calling it out on both sides. This doesn't rise to the level of a Clarence Thomas or a Samuel Alito. Not quite. But bad is bad, unethical is unethical, and you're not going to catch me making a hypocrite of myself, and I would ask that you do not do the same. What do you think? I'd love to know. You can call. Leave me a brief voicemail, 714-576-4054. Of course, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. After you've subscribed and liked and commented and shared this video, if this is something that you want to disseminate, please consider supporting and producing my work. Click the join button below, click the super thanks button below, or go over to patreon.com/IDoubtIt podcast. Listen, I know it's not popular to criticize the team, but in order to make our country as a whole a better place, one standard should apply. Ethics are ethics. Morals are morals. Justice is justice. I'll see you next time. I appreciate you. Be genuine. Take care of one another.